Welcome to the Hire Truckers Podcast, where we interview experts in driver recruiting. We provide industry insights, marketing trends, and motivation to help you level up your recruiting game. Welcome to the Hire Truckers Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Craddock, and I'm super excited. I have Alexandra Christman on today. Welcome to the show, Alexandra.
Thanks for having me.
And so if you guys don't know Alexandra yet, so Alexandra is actually on our Trucking Clicks Hire Truckers team, and she's been with us a number of years and is the director of client success. And so she's one of the people that our clients rave about, and they're like, it's such a joy to work with you guys because we get to work with Alexandra. And so some of that is a vision I had a few years ago, just becoming reality the last couple of years. And so just as Alexandra's been with our team for a good while and just still being one of the younger, like newer players in the industry in terms of age of company, I just wanted to have her on and just for us to chat through just some of her story, some of our vision, a look at kind of where we're going. So that just kind of lays the scene for the show. So really appreciate you doing this, Alexandra, and jumping on. So
absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
So let's start at the beginning, Alexandra. So when and how did you join Trucking Clicks?
Yeah, so I joined Trucking Clicks back in, February of 2023. Honestly, it kind of came at a really pivotal time in my life. I had just come out of a really hard season of about 2.5 years. In late 2020, while I was pregnant with my youngest, I went through a really big kind of life-changing health crisis. I was diagnosed with brain cancer. And so, as you can imagine, we spent a year in the fight of our lives. My family and I did. We had a 20-month-old at the time and one on the way. And so I spent a year fighting that. And then I had been building my real estate career for a few years before that. So when we everything settled down, I jumped back in. At the time, I went with a national kind of up and coming agency, just thinking something like that might be a little easier than going back to doing it all myself. And I had a really successful year, but unfortunately, in the fourth round of layoffs, about a year later, I was let go. And it allowed me to have some time with my boys back because, doing real estate, I was gone all the time. I was working early hours, late nights, all sorts of stuff with two little guys at home and my husband, feeling like I was just neglecting that part of my life while trying to, support us. I just took that time after I was laid off to really pour into them, spend that time with them. But it also kind of led to a really kind of sad season for me. I think I finally was able to process everything I'd gone through in the last 2 years. And it was just a really, really tough season. And I knew then that I couldn't go back to the life that I had been kind of living, honestly, I think I powered through a lot of it, trying to avoid a lot of the emotional ramifications of what had happened. And so, I finally in January just said, I think I'm ready to kind of start exploring what's out there, what could be a possibility. I hopped on LinkedIn and I will tell you, I never got on LinkedIn. So this was like the first time I'd been on probably in 6 months. And I hopped on and Ginger had posted about wanting someone that could do some client success communication stuff, some maybe administrative tasks, part-time. And it just, it sounded like something that I would enjoy, that I could kind of ease back into. And I just reached out and I said, hey, Ginger, I know nothing about trucking. I know nothing about the industry, but I think I could do the job well, and I'm willing to learn. And here we are 2.5 years later.
Wow. So that conversation, like at the beginning or when you joined, it was coming off of a layoff, which is the main thing I remember back then, which is super hard. And I don't think at the time I really knew as much about the brain tumor and those hard things. So that's like a lot of just crazy amount of hard things at one time.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really hard fought couple of years. I look back on it and I know that basically for 2 years I was just trying to survive. And then I'm a person of faith, and I believe that God put Trucking Clicks in my life to be honestly what I needed in that season, coming out of all of it. It's been such a blessing to be a part of the team. I've still been able to prioritize myself and my family, but I get to enjoy the work that I do. And so it's just been, it was crazy how it came about. I actually knew Ginger from about 13 years before I saw her message. She had actually led an in-home Bible study that my mom, my aunt, and I had attended when I was in my mid-20s. So it was just a coincidence. I didn't know her professionally at all, just personally. And again, like I said, it was just kind of the perfect timing and the perfect fit.
Yeah. And I can't believe it's been 2.5 years. I was thinking February, like we're already halfway into this year.
Yeah.
That's wild. And now trucking.
And now I know trucking. Well, I'm still learning. Let me tell you, I learn something new every week. But I do. I'll randomly spout off something about trucking. My husband's just like, "Where did you learn that?" I'm like, at work, duh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I mean, being in the industry, I don't know, 15 years or so now. Yeah, I'm just constantly learning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's new stuff every day.
Absolutely.
And so what resonated, just going back to that time period 2.5 years ago, like what resonated like during that pivotal season, and like what made this opportunity feel like something you would even want to take a chance on?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there were a lot of things that jumped out at me. I think number one, just, kind of the job itself was something that I was like, that feels like something I could do and do well. After interviewing with you and Ginger, I learned more kind of about our vivid vision. And one of the things I loved so much was that prioritizing our families and our personal lives as well as work is not only something that you talk about, but that you actually encourage us to do. And that was really key at that time. Like I said, I'd been spending all of my time busy and or out of the house up until then. And I didn't want to I couldn't keep it up, and I didn't want to keep it up. And so that was definitely appealing, and then just kind of as it grew, it really kind of fit into this whole model that I feel like my whole life has followed, which is wherever I land and whatever career path I have found myself on, which there have been a couple, I always find myself serving others. And that's always kind of what I say is kind of what I feel like I was made to do, was to find ways I can make other people's lives better. Anyone that comes across my path, how can I make their life better after we interact than it was before? And that's kind of what the client success thing is. I know some people may think that I'm being I'm overly like sensationalizing in that way, but I really do look at my job as, how can I make this better for our clients? How can I make it easy? How can I make it helpful? How can I be supportive? And all of that. And I think that is, that really is kind of what drew me to it. And I think that's what's really, kept me excited about it for the last couple of years.
So how did your past roles, so you mentioned real estate and some of the attention to detail stuff, and just some different, and you mentioned multiple different iterations of your career just prior to joining us. How did those past roles prepare you for what you're doing now?
Yeah. So I would say probably one of the ones that's the most pivotal. Well, I think real estate, but then also I was a teacher in my early post-graduation years. And I think with both of those, if you think about it, you're dealing with different people, you're dealing with different personalities, you're dealing with a different situation every time, whether it's a student or, a real estate client. And so for me, again, with that idea of serving them in mind, you have to be able to take each situation as it comes to you and adapt to what they need. And to do that, you have to be able to listen and communicate well, which is critical for me in life, personally and professionally. I just think that it is the most important part of any relationship, working and non-working. And so I feel like, all of those prepared me to be able to, move into the client success role, where every fleet is different. Every fleet has different needs. Every fleet communicates differently, and all of that. And I can easily adapt to that. And I enjoy it. It is fun. I have my routines and my set, like kind of things that I do all of the time, but then each one of them gets a little, tweaked a little bit per client. And that keeps it fun and exciting too.
That's awesome. So, what does service? Because I know even just the term client success can mean a lot of different things to different people. Even amongst our team, like people have different views of client success and what the role should represent. But what does service look like in the client success role, like as demonstrated towards our clients? Like what does service look like in action for our clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it looks like a lot of different things. Again, one of the things that I mentioned a minute ago is that I think communication is just critical. And so for me, that looks like trying to be as quick to respond as I can. And whether that is an answer or saying, hey, I'm loaded down with meetings today. Can I get back to you on this tomorrow? Or even saying, you know what? I don't know. I'm going to reach out, to the team. I'll reach out to Aaron, Morgan, whoever, and I'll get you an answer. Never be afraid to say you don't know. That's one thing I definitely have learned in my life is that it's okay to say that as long as you act on follow up on it. And so I think that prompts quick communication helps build trust. Trust is key. And so I think it's serving them when they say, hey, we'd really like to see XYZ. It's getting it turned around to them as promptly as we can and letting them know what that's going to look like. Hey, I got this out. We'll get on it ASAP. Or, hey, we've received this. It'll probably be end of day, 2 or 3 days from now. I'll keep you updated. So I think it's serving them well in that way, just keeping them in the loop on what's going on. Then I think it's also the little special things. I mean, one of the things that I started doing just because I just wanted to call attention to it was recognizing recruiters that were doing a great job. When we do our quality assurance, I get to hear some of the recruiters, and some of them just are out there doing an amazing job. And I wanted them to get recognized for that. And so I started sending those calls back to the fleets and saying, hey, so-and-so did a great job. I just wanted you to hear this. And so, doing little things like that, or, just getting to visit the clients and being in their environment and learning more about them. And again, also getting to know them personally and professionally and just building those relationships. I think all of that is a part of, kind of building that successful client relationship. And for me, that's, the biggest part of client success.
Yeah. What's kind of surprised me just over the past 2 or 3 years, as I feel like we've done since you've come on, I feel like we've gotten excellent in terms of client success. What surprised me during that process is just how reciprocal it is. Just almost all of our clients just try to almost serve us back. And I'm like, we're providing a service that they're paying for. It almost surprises me sometimes how much they just reciprocate and care about our team, and just encourage. And I remember it even came up on a call in the last month. One of our clients was like, how can we help you all get more known and tell more fleets about what you're doing? How can we give you intros? And I feel like that's just wild. And it just shows that like when you really serve and put them first, like in terms of like, let's highlight their recruiters. Let's like not just the people signing the check every month over to us for advertising, but it just anybody on their team. And that's something you've done really well. And so when you read over the Vivid Vision before you joined us, there was this term back then. I know we have a new iteration of the Vivid Vision, our 3-year vision now, but there was a term even back then about wowing, like creating wow moments, like wow in all caps, and just amazing our clients. And so we talk a lot about those moments. Can you share one that stands out just from the past year where we've been able to create that wow moment for a client?
Yeah, I do have one that's probably my absolute favorite one. One of our clients has a kind of an animal mascot. And as part of celebrating that with them and our anniversary of working with them, we adopted a turtle and got to name him after their mascot. And that is probably my number one kind of wow moment. It was just so fun. Kind of, when I was thinking about what can we do that's personal, that shows them that we care and that we're excited to be working with them and whatnot. When that turtle adoption kind of came to me, it was just, I was so excited. And then to be able to see their reaction, like they have the picture up on the wall and like kind of like with his information and all of that. And I still get updates on him like every month. And so I will forward those on when they come through. And that was probably the highlight of those wow moments. for me in terms of like the big things.
That's awesome. That's cool. Adopting a turtle. Yeah, you don't think of that when you think of client success.
No, but it was really a special moment.
Yeah, and that's one thing I feel like you've done well is come up with just creative ideas that aren't about us, because it's one of those things like I can send, a hire truckers Yeti and people are kind of excited. They're like, "Oh yeah, nice cup," but I have 10 Yetis and it's not about them. That's one thing I feel like we've really clicked forward in the last year and a half is our different little gifts are about them, whether it's their word or their mascot in the case that you mentioned or their team, and not about like a lot of times our brand won't even be on it, but it's just how do we celebrate them and the things that are important to them in that season. Because it wasn't the hire truckers turtle, right? In that instance, it was their mascot and in their honor. And so just really something that they had already put into existence, and then we just built on it and helped add fuel to it. I just think that's super powerful. So moving into our next section, it's on a team and culture. And just this was one of the sections when we did our pre-call, I know you were most excited about diving into. But what makes our team click so well?
Yeah. I really do think that the biggest thing that makes our team work so well together is that we've put in the work to make it work. We have worked on making sure we understand each other, making sure we understand how that person may operate individually, but also as a teammate. Like how do they come in and collaborate versus how they work independently? And I just am incredibly grateful that we've all been willing to do that. We've all put in that work. We utilize something called the Colby, which also kind of gives us insight into how each person kind of is wired to act and to work. And I think that is actually, it's something that, I mean, I'll be honest, when it was kind of first presented, I was like, this seems kind of silly. And then as the years have gone on and we refer back to it so often, it makes so much sense. And to know, hey, we might be missing on this, not because we don't understand each other and not because there's some kind of conflict. We just come at it differently, and so whereas I might come at something very relationally, someone else, you might come at it very like data centric, and that can cause what feels like a rift, even though it's not. But again, we've put in that work to understand that, hey, we're just looking at this different because that's how we are wired. And I just really am thankful that is something that we have focused on as a team. And I think it's what makes us powerful together.
Yeah, I've been amazed, honestly. Like there are different times of the last few years where our teams at each other's throats, and myself included, like where I say something that doesn't come across right and isolate someone and make them not feel heard. And one of the things I've been most impressed about, and honestly, the reason our team is like we've had such good retention in terms of who we have on our team and a cohesive team is just that everyone has done the work, like read the books, listened to the podcasts, like tried to own their part, like accepted, sometimes maybe even poorly given constructive feedback from me. And yeah, I'm just really blown away because I've had an opportunity to work with different people on the team in other seasons too, in other roles. And just seeing the growth of everybody I get to work with just blows my mind. And I'm just so encouraged. And I think some people probably think from working with us, because we're genuinely like a positive and joyful team, like, oh, their team must always get along. Like, no, yeah. We might have like a Monday morning call where we like get off and I'm like, what just happened? Like we were doing so well. And then like something exploded and I don't even know what happened. Golly, but just everybody, I'm even amazed then, like when I might get a phone call like an hour later and like, hey, like I did that, like just people owning up, like, hey, I did this, like, and I realize and thinking back on it, like I said this, but I really meant this, and I understand how it may have come across, or just calling and asking questions like, how could I have better done this? Like, I'm just really impressed at the humility, because we have a lot of just A players, leaders, like everyone on our team has been a leader and is a leader in some context even today, whether amongst their family or church or in our organization. And yeah, I just continue to be amazed at the work. I'm so glad you touched on that. Because like,
Yeah.
yeah, that is the only reason we click so well
Yeah.
is we have all worked our tails off at it. Like I'm literally listening to a book on listening right now
Yeah.
because I still talk too much. And that's something that I'm changing my identity in that I'm becoming a better listener.
Well, and I'll tell you, I think that what is also really, really helpful is that whereas with a lot of company, dynamics, you feel like you can't go to someone above you and say, hey, when you did that, that really bothered me. It really upset me or whatnot. But here I feel like it does not matter who said it, who did it. We can all go to each other. We all feel safe in doing that. Like it never feels like I can't say anything because I'm going to lose my job. And I think that that's really key too, is that there is a safety in knowing that no matter who a conflict or whatever is happening with, we're all open to having those discussions. And that's something that you don't find very often that I think makes us kind of sets us apart, makes it really special. And again, helps us work through it and be stronger on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And honestly, just as the lead, like that's so much a vision becoming a reality. And so it's very encouraging that you share that. And I can even think of an example last week. It was somebody in operations came to me and was like, hey, you said this and it landed really, really wrong. And again, like I was sharing with Lauren, like my wife was like, hey, we did this. And I shared what I had done and she went, oof. That's like the exact thing. She was like, oh, I can't believe you did that. And I'm like, well, you got to understand where I'm coming from. Like, but because there was, even when I was confronted with how I had presented that particular thing and confronted with like, hey, it made me feel this way, even though that wasn't your intent. I was like, honestly, like when I sit back and think about it, my intent was kind of control-y. Like I said that in a way to try to control you. Like if I really analyze it, like I didn't necessarily know that until I thought about it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about it now. And like, I think I kind of meant that like because of my own insecurities with this particular thing we're working on within the business and transition, I projected my insecurities by throwing that out there, like with a strategic intention to kind of manipulate and control. And so like, but I just appreciated just the humility and maturity to come to me, like the person that's signing the paycheck, and with the like just the comfort level. I was like, honestly, when I told Lauren and she was like, oof, like, I can't believe you did that. I was like, honestly, it's such a win. Like, because the fact that my team trusts me to bring those really uncomfortable things, because I've only had like 5 people ever do that in my whole life. Mm-hmm. When I've had, over 100 people work on different teams for me over the years. And yeah, I'm just and I just like that I get that on some level from everyone on the team, just as we keep growing. So along those lines, like what roles does trust play we're talking about trust on our team, but pivoting to the client side, what role does trust play in the client relationships, like with the clients we serve?
Yeah. So it's kind of, in that same vein. If you don't have trust, you cannot build a relationship. You can't grow with a client if there's not that trust. We could offer them the moon, we could have the best services out there. We could be offering them the best results, but if they don't trust us, it's not ever going to stick, and it's not going to grow, and it's not going to be good for either one of us. And so kind of, going back to what I said earlier, I think one of the things that I've learned kind of along my journey in life is that you want to communicate clearly and concisely and just honestly. And I think that goes back to what I said earlier, like, don't be afraid to say, hey, I don't know. I think that honestly, that's one of the greatest responses you can get from someone, because they're being honest with you. And of course, you always want them to follow up with, hey, I don't know, but I'm going to go find out for you. And so that is, I've used that more in my life than I would like to, but at the same time, then I'm able to turn around and deliver that answer back, that builds that trust. It's like another step step forward, and another click on that journey forward towards, them being able to trust me, knowing I'm going to follow through on what I said. And so, I think that's really critical. And I think the other thing is that we have to be honest. If we make a mistake or if we have slipped up or we've missed something. And when we are honest and transparent and even proactive about letting them know, that builds trust almost even at a greater level. If we have missed something or something just isn't working and we see it and we let them know beforehand, that builds more trust than us just being like, ooh, let's just keep quiet and just like maybe they won't notice. Well, that builds zero trust because they are going to notice and then they're coming back and say, hey, did you not see this? And also, if you did, why didn't you tell us? So, I think that trust and honesty are just honestly one of the most critical components in the client success role, and relationship.
Mm-hmm. And we don't always get there. Like I just think of just some of the clients, we do have a really like an industry leading retention rate. However, not every client's worked out the last few years. And I think like some of those that haven't, I think when I'm looking back on it, it's like the trust was never fully formed.
Yes.
And then other instances, like there might have been some area we missed the mark, but we didn't know about it. Or yeah, not always the case, but most of the time, I think our team has led with that the last few years of like when we see something, we proactively communicate it. And yeah, it always builds trust. I've never had a client, just even when we've had tense, like a new relationship where we're still trying to figure out the trust dynamic with a new fleet. And yeah, I've never had, even in that dynamic, them be like, oh, I can't believe you came back to me and said like the leads didn't go through or had the wrong information or, hey, you forgot to update this thing or creative, or just when we are transparent, like everybody's always receptive to it. And I think, yeah, it's been super powerful. And I think that embodies like one of our core values, which is radical honesty.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. Yeah. When we've been on the receiving end of the miscommunications or the kind of like being left in the dark, you definitely see that. You definitely see how that can hurt the relationship. And I think for me, that motivates me more to be so much even more intentional about being sure that, hey, no matter where we are, no matter what it is, we are always, like I said, proactive about it and as transparent as we can, possibly be. So.
And when I was hearing a little bit ago, like you were talking about just listening, and that's one of your focuses. Like, I think that is one of your superpowers. Is like on the call with a client, you may only talk 5% of the time, but then we go meet with clients, and they're like, Alexandra is just the most amazing, like client success person ever. Like she's like, I don't know how you get this talent. Da, 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 da. I mean, but clients just rave about it, and it's like, that's crazy. Like she just like listens. Like I think that's just something you do incredibly well. Like it, not only listen, but then peer it back to them. Like this is what I heard you say. What did I miss?
Yeah.
And I just feel like that's kind of a unique skill, just even amongst client success organizations. Cause I think a lot of times there's an agenda, and the agenda isn't just to serve. It might be to grow the business or whatever. But I think like your agenda all like since day one, like almost 2.5 years in, has been just to serve and make their lives better.
Now let's take a minute to thank today's sponsor. Do you hire truck drivers in hard to fill areas, or do you need help creating efficiency in your recruiting department? You're not alone. With 50 plus years experience, Trucking Click specializes in data-driven strategies, industry-leading customer experience, and custom solutions that'll get you to your goal. Trucking Clicks is your go-to place for high-quality, direct leads at scale. Visit truckingclicks.com or call 512-982-0816 today.
Just tying back to the beginning, like, do you think some of that desire to serve, like does the hard thing, like the layoffs and the brain tumor, like, does that change how you interact, like with in your role, like in terms of how you serve?
Yeah. I think, I'll be honest. I think I've always worked towards kind of being who I am today, but I think it did change and almost become easier in a way. You always kind of hear the thing like you never know what other people are dealing with or going through. behind the scenes and whatnot. And so I do think that it had a really big impact on how I operate and how I communicate with other people. And this is this is going to sound it always sounds a little weird when I say it. I was surrounded by people, and yet I felt very alone, and I didn't feel 100% listened to. I think that there were a lot of people trying to take care of me and help me in ways that they thought were best, but not a lot of people were willing to just sit and listen. And I had a couple of friends that really stepped into that role. And I think that as then I came back into working in this job with a client success, that is something that I kind of learned over those 2 years was, man, sometimes if you'll just sit and listen, one, that's really what people want. They want to be heard. They want you, they just want to know somebody is paying attention, not just sitting there and letting them talk, but actually hearing what they're saying. And like you said, kind of repeating it back. I would even say that part goes back to being a teacher. With young kids, they'll say things and you think you know what they're saying, but you might be completely wrong on that. I would say I even experienced that as a mom. And so even being a mom kind of through the last 6 years now, I've learned to kind of really sit and listen and do that respond back. Like, here's what I think you're saying. Is that what you're saying? And I think that that's beneficial and critical in this role is here's what I heard you say. Because one, again, that builds trust. They know I'm listening. They know I'm paying attention. They know that I'm focused on them and their needs. And then two, I'm clarifying, saying, hey, I want to make sure that I deliver for you what you need, that I am servicing you in the best way possible, that I'm being helpful, not hurtful. And so I think it all kind of in different ways kind of comes together. And it's been a lifelong lesson I have been working on, but I do feel like it's gotten better in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Just so it did go full circle, right? Because that hard season made you value listening even more, even if you already were a good listener and had learned those things. It just and it's just so cool because I get to observe that, and so I see that exhibited with our clients in the way that you repeat, like, "Hey, here's what I heard you say. Is that what you meant?" And then I was even thinking too. I was like, "How can I apply that?" And I'm about to go on a 21-day road trip. Actually, this episode will drop while we're still gallivanting the country with my young kids, and just thinking about I'm going to try that I'm going to utilize that with both Lauren and our oldest. Just be like, hey, what I heard you say is this. Is that what you meant? Just powerful. And
It'll change the dynamic. It really will. I even try to, like I said, I try to do it with our kids. Our oldest had a speech impediment for a long time. So I think I really learned in that season of life to just lean in. I understood him more than anyone else. And I would tell you, I understood maybe 60%. And so, I really had to lean into that, just stopping, cutting out all distractions and listening to him and trying to understand him. And that probably also was one of the more critical pieces in the last few years that just, really kind of brought that whole lesson home for me.
So our last episode that came out last week was actually a solo episode of me, and it's talking through just AI and like what's changing with AI and all those things. And so as we've started integrating just more AI and automation and leveraging that in how we build our technology and different offerings, how do you ensure that it still feels human, like in an AI age, or should we really not embrace these new things because we might be losing the listening, for instance?
No, I like that you asked that. I think that I've kind of made it kind of clear to a lot of people. I'm probably one of the more hesitant people on using AI, but I will use it in certain circumstances. Like I'll be honest, I needed to write an email that was pretty lengthy a couple of weeks ago. I was in the car on the road. I pulled up Gemini. I said, here, I need a letter. Here's what I need you to include in it. Go. And it generated almost a 2-page letter that then I was able to get home, print and sign and send off. So, I think that it's definitely useful, but on the client success side, I will go back and I will edit it if I do use it. Email's probably the way I utilize it the most. I will use it for ideas sometimes, like if I just feel stuck on something or I'm kind of trying to work through a process and I just can't quite get, to the next step, I have started using it. And so, I mean, I think that there is a place for it, but I think that you cannot risk losing that human connection as well. And so being the client success person, kind of being like the face of the company to our clients, I think that for me, it is helpful, but it is not ever going to be able to take over my role, because there's just too many things I think you risk losing in that relationship that we build with our clients, that it just doesn't do yet, and it can't do, and it can't replace.
Yeah. And this is, and recruiting, marketing spend is one of the biggest items on a P&L. And so it's just a big responsibility. And so people have to trust like their client success person and their sales person that they're working with, like kind of that team. And I'm, even though I'm an AI proponent, and we're going through an AI book and every week, and I'm encouraging everybody to use it more. I actually tend to agree with you too on the, like, I don't see it going away from a client success perspective. Just even like, we'll never be able to relate to AI like we have on this call about like layoffs, which I've also experienced. And then I can't fully understand like the brain tumor and the scares of that. Like, I'll never be able to understand that. However, we can still connect over it. And then same thing, like the struggles of just you're having young kids at this, the same age as Lauren and I's kids, and then the struggles with that. Like those are real connecting things. Like, yes, it's about delivering the cost per hire for our clients, but also it's about like being human and enjoying the humanity about what are their goals and aspirations. Like, yes, both in their recruiting needs, but also their families. And then they honestly, that's the cool reciprocal thing, is a lot of our clients know that about you as well, and Ginger and myself, like what are our goals and visions and things outside of work. And so I think while AI might be able to remember the details better from a call and the notes and craft an email more quickly and things like that, I think be an aid. I just don't know how it could replace just those personal, emotional, like story aspects. Yeah, so I appreciate that perspective. So we're already a good ways into this. So kind of skipping down to just personal growth and like vision forward, just continuing to think that way. What are you most excited about? Like, we're 2.5 years in, right? Just getting started. What are you most excited about? Just looking ahead, just at our vision for the company and the industry. What are you excited about?
Well, I have been telling you and Ginger and everyone else on the team all year that I just feel like this is our year. And I mean, I realize we're right at about halfway, but there is something coming, and I have been feeling it all year, just kind of deep down in my soul, that we are about ready to just cross a couple of big, or hit a couple of big milestones that we've been aiming for. And so that's really exciting. Just, knowing it's coming. And then just some of the projects we're working on for clients, just some really unique things that we're providing them. I mean, I literally get giddy and laugh out loud, or I'm like, I'm like responding out loud. My husband sometimes when he's home is like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm working. And he's like, really? He's like, because you're just sitting over there laughing. And I'm like, I know, but I was like, we got something, on this project, and it's so great. I love being able to be excited when I'm sending something back to the clients. And so I think just kind of some of those projects that we're working on, are just really, they're exciting. I can't wait to see what we do after this, kind of how we're growing. I know, we're working on some new technology things, and it's just awesome to see our team, our ops team, our developers kind of really just create these things. And that's what's so great about it, is we're not piggybacking off of other things. I mean, we're creating these things, and it's just exciting to see it all come together.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic, right? Like, I'm excited and see the growth, and just the last couple of years being slower in the industry. Like, we still grew, I just praise God that we still grew the last couple of years, just in terms of just a top line revenue perspective. I'm very, very, very thankful for that in a season. However, it's not as fast as I expected to grow. And so it's like, I hear those things and I actually appreciate that because I'm feeling the same thing. My word for the year is acceleration. And we've seen it so far.
Yeah. It's been a good
Just
year.
in the growth we've seen this year, just up over and above what we've seen the last couple of years. But yeah, I think it's just the beginning that I am super excited. And I was actually encouraged. I got off a call with the team on Monday and I had you were on that call, and I had one of our developers reach out and say like, hey, I just wanted to cast vision. Like I would love to, really increase my involvement with you guys and continue to grow. And the language he used is like, I want to create best in class things for the industry. Like, and that, which is exciting for me because that's, my vision is like, how are we the best in driver recruitment marketing, like in the industry, like not second best, not like we want to be the best. And that's the vision and the goal. And that comes with producing like things like hiretruckers.com and the, the AI chatbot and just all the different things we're working on that we haven't even released. And, yeah, it's just exciting when you hear back, like, I want to be a part of more of it and be world class. It's just encouraging because our developers could work anywhere just because they're really good at what they do. And so just to have them want to be a part of, and I'm working on some other like kind of parallel businesses too, and like some acquisitions we might make as a company like the Creddoc Holding entity. And I just, it's all connected. Like, how are we best in class in different industries and different niches, and specifically in truck driver recruiting? And yeah, I think, and our team word, which you helped come up with, I think planted was your initial idea. And then our team decided on the word rooted. I really do firmly believe like we'll be rooted in the industry by the end of the year. And it's just been cool because we're recording this on July 2nd. So fresh into the second half of the year and just look back on, just what God's done so far this year. It's pretty incredible.
Absolutely. Well, I think Hire Truckers, man, I love seeing how it's developing on the fleet side and on the driver side. I think it is, I think it's awesome. I get so excited every time I see kind of a new, something new pop up on it. And then the fact that we have the blog and the podcast on there as well, man, it's just kind of the whole package. It's definitely exciting.
So yeah, I agree. Just getting started. Let's go. The next thing is like one piece of advice I want to, because a lot of the, we have recruiters on here, directors of recruiting, fleet executives, presidents, owners of some of your largest fleets in the country, like listening in right now. And so what's one piece of advice for a company building out a client success team and or client success function?
Yeah. I think your most critical thing is to find people. Again, I think not to like toot my own horn, but I think people that have a heart for serving others and that have the ability to communicate well are going to be critical if you're building out a client success side. If you're looking for people that are really going to build those relationships and those connections, that's what you need. You have to have somebody that can relate to your clients, that is willing to listen to them, that is willing to not just listen, but hear them and really, truly make sure they understand them. And so I think that's who you're looking for, is just somebody that really wants to do whatever it takes to serve your clients well through that client success role.
That's awesome. Well, where can people connect with you on LinkedIn or other places? Where can people follow Alexandra?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'll be honest, I'm not so great about it. Like some people are a little bit better. You can find me over on Instagram. I like to post pretty pictures. That's kind of my amateur hobby that I'm excited to start taking classes on, is photography, not of people, of like nature and critters. I love taking outdoor photos. And my husband bought me a really cool camera. So you can check me out on Instagram. And that's kind of where I hang out away from work.
So we'll have Alexandra's Instagram link in the show notes. And just thank you, Alexandra, just for jumping on. I know this was a little bit outside the box, like in terms of episode. Like typically we have, clients and industry peers and things like that on. But just, yeah, I just appreciate you jumping on, and I just think we added a ton of value to the industry. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today. Our goal with the Hire Truckers podcast is to provide industry insights, marketing trends, and motivation to level up your recruiting game. If we added value, take a few seconds to share this with your network. Have a great week.